Good morning. It has become self-evident to anyone paying even the slightest bit of attention to what's happening in American society and American culture that we are facing a massive problem. And it's a problem that at one point was seemingly trivial, and now it's reaching to the point of potential disaster. One, because it just keeps escalating, and two, because there doesn't seem to be any signs of rectification, reconciliation. And the problem is that you have these two political sides, liberal and conservative, left and right. And throughout the entirety of my life, there's been disdain and vitriol between the two sides. But the more that time passes, that divide between these two sides, it's like an earthquake has occurred between them, and at one point it was just a small gap, and now it is a canyon between these two sides. And the more that time passes, the less the two sides can understand each other. The more disdain and hatred the two sides have for each other, the more impossible it is to even traverse this gap. And it's pretty crazy. I mean, it breaks up friendships, it breaks up families, and it's like there's two species of beings living among each other on the same land, and they can't stand each other. Have my coffee. But I've had an epiphany about this lately, because it certainly is time that is causing this divide to grow, this earthquake between them to grow, the canyon to grow. But there's something else that's happening that I've never heard anyone say. They actually say the opposite. Everyone always says we have to talk to the other side, we have to talk to the other side, we have to talk to the other side. And keep in mind, I'm coming at this from a place where throughout my life, I've been on both of these teams, and I reached the point of true apathy. I'm not on either one of these sides. I try to understand both sides, but I'm not on one of these sides. And so everybody's always saying we've got to talk to the other side, we've got to talk to the other side. But it's time that grows the canyon. And somehow it's also the attempts to talk to the other side that makes them hate each other even more, despise each other even more. And I don't like to use that word hatred, but that is what's happening. I don't separate myself from these two political sides to claim that I'm holier than thou, or allude to the fact that I don't have political opinions. But I think most people are like myself. We want to breathe clean air. We want to work a fulfilling job. We want to cease being wrecked financially from weird things that are coming from on high, from wherever they're coming from. And in regards to these political battles that just keep escalating and essentially become omnipresent in our lives, it sucks us in like a black hole. And it's like the psalm of how long is this going to happen? We might have 80 years of life on this earth, and today isn't even promised, tomorrow certainly isn't promised, and we want to enjoy life. We want to work a fulfilling job, grow spiritually, be in relationships with a significant other, have friends, have close family. The days pass, and strange political embattlements keep escalating and doing whatever it can to affect us. And most of us are tired of it. We just want to disconnect, but we also want to disconnect in a way that it doesn't affect us. We don't want we almost feel like we have to pay attention, because if we don't pay attention, then we're going to find ourselves under a strange tyranny. And so I had an epiphany about the cause, why this is happening, and the clear solution that is right in front of our face. And here's how I came to this realization. Let's paint this picture, and I'll see if I can find an actual picture that is not copyright that I can put on the screen. But just imagine for a moment 3 prisoners. 3 prisoners. These are young men, and they are in a cave. This is the Allegory of the Cave by Plato, but taken a little bit further. You have 3 prisoners. They're in a cave. They've got shackles around their neck so they can only look forward. They've got shackles around their legs so they can't leave the cave. They can only stand or sit and just look forward. And their back is against a wall. And behind that wall is a stage light. And I'm saying stage light. Plato wrote this in the Republic, and the character that was speaking it was Socrates. And Socrates described it as a fire because they didn't have stage lights. But I think it's more accurate to call it a stage light. They just didn't have that back then. And so you've got these 3 prisoners. They've been here since infants. And the stage light is the wall that is behind them, acts as a partition, and the stage light shines on the wall in front of them. And on the wall in front of them are people in front of the stage light have something like puppets on a stick that they can move back and forth. And it creates a shadow on the wall that the prisoners can see. Creates a silhouette of whatever they're holding from the stage light. And because these prisoners have been here in this cave, prisoners from the time that they were infants, all that they ever know is these shadows. They name the shadows, they observe the stories that the shadows are acting out. The more they observe the shadows, the more knowledge they gain regarding what the shadows are and their intentions and what they're doing and which one is up to what. Sorry, I gotta switch hands. But the reality is they're in a cave and they're looking at shadows. And now imagine one of them is able to be free of the shackles. And he doesn't want to leave the cave because the cave is all that he knows. But he is forced out of the cave. He is forced past the stage light. And so then he goes into absolute darkness because he doesn't have the comfort of the stage light. And he goes out into the real world. And because he's now actually seeing the sun in the real world, his eyes are hurting. His body is hurting because he's walking around. Over time, he is accustomed to living in the real world, and the pain subsides. Now, in the Allegory of the Cave, Socrates is always speaking in questions, and so Socrates is talking to a guy named Gullican or something like that, Gulkin. And so he's asking him questions, and he's like, now, would the man who has now experienced the real world not want to go back down into the cave and tell his fellow prisoners about the real world that he's experienced? Would he not then, now that he's actually seen a real tree rather than a shadow of a tree, a silhouette of a tree, would he not be apathetic to the shadows. Realize that they're all fake. And the guy's like, yeah, he wouldn't care about the shadows anymore. He'd realize the shadows are trivial. But imagine that guy goes back to the cave and his eyes are hurting once more, and he can't even see the shadows because the cave is so dark. His eyes got accustomed to the actual light of the real world. And so he's in pain. He was in pain when he left. He's in pain when he comes back down. And the other prisoners see that now he's in pain, and they think he hurt himself because he's in pain. They think that he can't see the shadows like he once could, and he's apathetic to the shadows. The shadows are what they value. That's their value system. And so now they actually have vitriol towards this man. They have disdain, they have hatred towards this man because they think he hurt himself. They think he's now trying to hurt them by getting them to leave. Now, the reason why this is relevant to today is because the man who leaves the cave and comes back, the other prisoners are angry at him because they don't understand him. But the thing that is causing them their anger is what they believe to be real, what they believe to be most important, but it is shadows. And here's me taking it a step further. Imagine now beside these prisoners, there's another partition. That other partition gets broken down, and what is revealed is 3 other prisoners. And so now you have 5 total prisoners because 1 left and came back. And the other 3 prisoners have also been shown these silhouettes throughout their whole life, but the silhouettes that they've seen the same silhouettes, but the silhouettes, they've seen them to do different things. They've added a different value system to it because they've just seen different things. The separate partition breaking down is this left and right divide. Because some people have had X experience, some people have had Y experience. They've seen these shadows doing different things throughout their life, and so they just can't understand the other side. But the point is that at the end of the day, we are arguing about shadows. We are in a cave. We have to leave the cave. And it goes even deeper, because then you think there's a lot of people who begin to leave the cave and they see the light and they try to come back, but they never really left the cave. They saw the stage light, or what Plato would call the fire, and that is false enlightenment. And they have no love in their heart. Jesus Christ says you will know them by their love. You'll know each other by each other's love. And so whether it's somebody who's claiming to be a Christian or an atheist claiming to be enlightened, but really everything they do is secretly out of hatred, they haven't actually stepped out of the cave into the real world. They just saw the stage light. Because if they actually went out into the real world, they would realize that these arguments are shadows, and I'm guilty of it as well. I argue about shadows all of the time. But the way that they would behave would be out of love. It would stop being out of disdain and hatred. You would just want everyone to leave the cave. And so we can certainly get to a point when we are talking to each other again, and we are having these types of conversations. But before we can talk to each other again and have conversations, we all need to leave this cave. And I get it. I understand that these political problems do affect the lives of all of us. But the reason why they're shadows is because they are so low resolution. We've been convinced to just put a fake name on these problems, but they're all so nuanced. We're just looking at shadows. We've simplified things to the point where we view everything as black and white, this or that, left or right, dualities. And there is one thing in this world that is black and white, which is love or hate. Love or hate. But everything else is nuanced. And so before we can actually have these nuanced conversations, we have to leave the cave, because there is no love in the cave. The whole thing is a facade. The whole thing is a fallacy. And notice, I'm giving no breath to the nature of the silhouettes or the people holding the sticks and showing us the shadows, or the reason why we're imprisoned in the first place. And obviously that's not the physical reality. Nobody has been born in that situation where they're literally a prisoner. But in a sense, that is the spiritual reality. But I guess it's more accurate to say we weren't maybe infants from the time that we were spiritual prisoners, but rather it's like we've learned wrong things. We've been taught so many things about the world and ourselves, and because it's gotten hammered into us, we believed it to be true. But it's too low resolution. It's not nuanced. It's almost oriented to make us despise each other. Right. And it's funny because at the end of this allegory of the cave, it's so perfect because Socrates is talking to this guy, Gullikin, and he's like, Gullikin, I wish there has to be a way to get people out of the cave. And I know it's not art, but there has to be a way to get people out of the cave. And obviously Socrates was born before Jesus Christ. Plato was born before Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is the way to get out of the cave. And then I say that and people are like, well, no, now you're engaging in the duality. You're trying to simplify it in terms of just saying the answer is Jesus Christ. But that's not really a simple thing. That is the word embodied. That is as complex as God becoming man. Quit viewing people as left and right. Quit viewing yourself as left and right. Quit viewing other people as left and right. That too is viewing other people as a shadow. See the entirety of who they are. Recognize their humanity. And let's leave the cave. May God smile upon you.